Fairy Pony Musescript here, and today I'm doing another commentary to the Color Goddess. This week is episode 3, The Training. Now with this episode, oh boy, there was a lot of fun things to work on. Like the song, for instance, that's one of my favorites that I've composed. You'll find out later what I'm talking about. But also some of the music in there's a lot of feels moments, there's a lot of other moments. And we also have the debut of the new Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle voice actors, Quirky Craft and Dark Knight Princess. And yeah, they do such an awesome job. Let's see. Yeah, and I think what I can remember, this episode doesn't have a single male voice actor in there at all. Going back to my old THS ways. But anyway, enough rambling on. I'm going to get on with the actual commentary to the actual episode in 3, 2, 1, and play. Previously on the Color Goddess. Okay, so, well, recently I discovered, finally, how to actually put hashtags to the videos, and it was so simple. I'm like, what? How did I not figure this out sooner? So, I just had to point that out. And then we just have what's previously going on. There were a lot of things that happened in episode 2. I mean, the return could have meant, like, anything. Like the return of Nistee, the return of King Sophitos, the return of Bluestreak. But it was mainly focused on the return of King Sophitos, you know, planning his, takeover again after he failed the first time. And right, okay, so also recently I changed the time skip. So instead of 10,000 years ago, it's only 1,500 years ago now. I'm just thinking back to some of the other things that I had written for this universe. It actually makes more sense. I don't know why I thought it would be 10,000 years ago. Now I just think that's way too long. Too long. Just too long. And yes, extending logic, because again, long commentary again would be necessary. Musescript as all of these characters. Narrator Pony as the characters that have now shown on screen, so as Kenzie VA's character has also shown on screen. Pretty much almost everyone's has shown on screen at this point that were in episodes 1 and 2. We have Quirky Craft and Dark Knight Princess as Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle. And then we have the goddesses in their beautiful colours. And then we had gained some more artists like Derpy Scientist and Wolfia the Wolf Girl. You'll see their art later on in the episode. Now to the actual episode, to the very first bit. Okay, so this is the first out of a couple of circumstances with Utica talking to Rainbow Dash inside a dream, and one Heartsy Artsy, when she was recording her lines, she would just like have one huge paragraph and that would be it. But it kind of, well, I mean, originally I was just gonna have Utica show up in flashbacks, but then I just kind of changed my mind afterwards. I figured that Utica should have a bigger part to play in the drama than just show up in flashbacks. So, that's why I had it in there.
5 more minutes.
And yeah.
No!
Oh, I love this bit. I just love Nistee's character. She's just so bossy, but she's just kind of stern. I think she's a lot like me in many ways. And she's very impatient and serious.
Nist, you need to chill. You're panicking way too much about this. Won't it take him a week to get here too?
No, it won't, because King Sophitos is 100 feet tall. Ah, yes.
Take off the edge of the house!
The air horn, blown by Bluestreak.
And what did you say about Tim?
This just proves that Bluestreak is more of a comic relief in this audio drama than she was in the last one.
You seem to have some very brutal methods of persuasion.
Yes, Bluestreak does have some very brutal methods of persuasion. You don't want to get on her bad side, folks.
better at defeating the enemy that
And
way.
yes, this is the
Rainbow will be
episode
training
when
today.
Rainbow Dash
Better grab
trains
popcorn.
with her new goddess powers with
Sometimes
her
I can't tell
locket.
who is more random, my grandmother or Pinkie Pie.
Who knows?
Wait, did Twilight put a cloud walking spell on you?
Oh yes, Twilight. We can't keep her waiting.
Sorry for not
Why are you
saying
going
much.
to Twilight?
I just don't really
To
have
do
too
some
much to
research.
say here.
Research?
What a great start to the
Really? I
commentary.
still need to eat.
I'm sure there'll still be plenty of pancakes left over.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the references. Okay, so the deal with the book. Chocolate Swirl White Tea was the original artist for this scene before she kind of dropped it. She did actually send me a sketch, and I just kind of followed that sketch, and it actually said Blue Streak is best ship. And so that's why I referenced her being the author of the book. So it's a little Easter egg. Like, if one of the artists doesn't, like, fill a scene, I just kind of have a little Easter egg there to acknowledge them one way or another. And then Twilight worrying about it getting an A- on a test. She wouldn't worry about that stuff anymore. I mean, not now that she is just a princess now, like, you know, in charge of Ponyville, being the princess of friendship. She doesn't really need to worry about tests too often, but oh well. And then we have the history books that Princess Celestia was talking about. And then I'm actually quite surprised at myself that the book would actually mention about King Sephiroth and not about the Demon Falls, because I remember in the Heartshell episode 6 when she was trying to look for more information on Demon Falls. Maybe she should have looked in the private history books, but then Princess Celestia knew more information. Okay, so this is Wolfia the Wolf Girl's art. It's very anime-esque. It's really cute. It's very detailed. It's awesome. Awesome art here. Muse, I'm not a prop, is what the book says. So, Wolfia does tend to put little Easter eggs in her art that we don't really tend to notice too often. She's done that for the Color Goddess episode 5 preview as well. If people will catch up on that. And I love how she's drawn King Sephiroth. She's just like this fluffy guy with claws and stuff. Much better than I would ever draw King Sephiroth. Much better than I would ever draw my own original character. It just proves how much I'm good at drawing ponies, but sometimes I'm just no good at drawing other creatures. Actually, I'm not too bad at drawing Liako. I've had more practice in drawing her. And that is all that Rainbow Dash cares about. that he's 100 feet tall. And then I also love how Wolfia has drawn the 3 goddesses here. They're also looking very pretty. And then this is the moment where Rainbow Dash would break the 4th wall.
Ready for me to save Equestria? I know I am. Yeah.
And they're very self-aware. And here's Blue Streak. The audience, of course. I love that line. I was like, when I was doing the preview for episode 3, I was like, Peacock, send in your lines so I can put out the preview and showcase the new artist's art, please. And yes, she did eventually. All good.
So, Sweeney, did you
Okay, Angel of the Light 101's art. And we have Dark Knight Princess's Sweetie Belle and Quirky Craft's Scootaloo.
We were trying to find something to do with the ball.
So this is flashing back to the formal gathering in the very first episode. I should have told Angel of the Light 101 that Spike was wearing a suit. Oh, but it doesn't matter, I wasn't really too fussed.
Where did she go?
And then Sweetie Belle eventually goes onto the slide that the 5-year-old fillies were on. And then Peacock is still crying in the corner. It was just a split second for that 5-year-old center in the formal gathering. And so they're trying to split up to find Apple Bloom. I guess I wasn't too clear. I should have said, Apple Bloom is gone, or something along those lines. And then we have
Maybe
Bloom
this
trotting
wasn't such a
around
good
the
idea.
garden at
Where
night.
did that come from again?
And then this
What's
is one of the
this?
main focus points of the audio
Aw,
drama.
this is so pretty.
This brooch
I wonder if Amir
becomes a
dropped this.
very important, significant
These are red
thing
peculiar
later
brooch,
on.
isn't it? Apple Bloom! Oh, hey, sweetie. Check this out. Ooh, it looks really pretty.
And the deal with
belongs to
Sweetie
Star
Belle
Inside.
liking the brooch, I guess she's just kind of like her sister a bit, where she kind of has, you know, a fixation
where are
on
you going?
gems nowadays.
By the time we found the brooch, almost every pony had gone home. It's a shame we couldn't find who it belonged to. Then we should keep it. It looks so
Yep,
pretty.
Sweetie Belle wants to
And the
keep it,
center looks so
and Spike just wants to
delicious.
eat it.
You're not
I
eating
love this
fresh
dynamic between
But
Sweetie
it
Belle
probably
and
belongs to
Spike
some pony.
in
Who is that?
arguing who
We
gets
can't
the
just keep it for
brooch.
ourselves. We need to be responsible
And
hand it
Apple
over
Bloom
to
and
the lost
Scootaloo are
found.
right. They
Someone
do
who
need
won't
to
sit down and look for it.
give it to the
You're
proper
right.
authorities.
If we can't find the pony it belongs to, then can we keep it? I don't know, sweetie. It just doesn't feel right. Please. Seriously, sweetie,
Please.
Oh,
Too fast.
Scootaloo's face. Like, one thing that I love when drawing ponies is just drawing them with just
Yay!
dots
You're
for eyes and just kind of
Aw.
forgetting the rest of the expression. And then we head over to Rainbow Dash training, and the music that's playing in the background, probably one of my favorite OSTs that I've composed. And yes, it's my singing as well. And the words that are actually being said, if you kind of listen to the soundtrack by itself, DJ, red, Oraji, orange, Yura, yellow, Gura, green, Boru, blue, and Poodle, purple, and then Chiora is color. So pretty much they're saying all the colors of the rainbow here. And then what Blue Streak did, she pretty much was in the locket, she pushed a red button to activate Rainbow Dash's powers. And then, and the deal with Rainbow Dash's goddess form, it resembles Hurika a lot. She just kind of has the rainbow wings, her hair has gotten a similar shape, and then everyone around Ponyville is just looking at Rainbow Dash growing to an enormous size. Of course they would be pretty concerned about that. Shipping Pinky Dash still continues in this audio drama.
Gigantic.
Oh, hello, Rainbow's friends. Come to watch the show. There's plenty of popcorn.
Blue Streak.
Ah yes, Pinky and Blue Streak became good friends in the later half of the Heart Shell, and then everyone is very confused in how she's returned after she sacrificed herself to save Rainbow Dash's life from Tenebrae, etc. And of course no one's gonna go, I loved that bit, like, as a genie, and then the lightning going on in the background.
You guys look like ants.
Another thing to mention about Rainbow Dash's goddess design is it's also similar to what she looked like at the end of the Heart Shell, when her locket activated after the elderly Blue Streak left her behind, and so then her eyes were multicolored and her hair was, like, different. So it was something along those lines, and then, yeah, she performed Sonic Rainbow with an anonymous muse tree. This is what Rainbow gets to practice on, to practice her goddess powers. But of course, because she's not a unicorn, she's not used to levitating things.
Rainbow, you need to transform back now.
And then Curious Gems art never ceases to amaze me. It's really pretty. Even when Blue Streak is a little bigger than she usually is, it doesn't really matter. It's no biggie whatsoever.
Her body isn't used to using this much energy. Of course it would tire her out. No kidding.
Yeah.
Hold on, I know CPR.
She is breathing, Sugar Cube.
Oh my goodness, I love that. See, I've hung out with Peacock so many times on Skype and Discord and real life that I just kind of figure the things that she would say in that situation, including her character Blue Streak, and it just kind of, yeah.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then Rarity and Applejack have no eyes. They're blind.
Twilight.
I'm kidding. And I wonder why Pinkie Pie looked like that. She kind of looked like G3 Pinkie Pie.
Okay.
And then continuing from everyone in the art team drawing Nistee a bit differently, Curious Gem's approach kind of looks like a sweater with the sleeves kind of tucked up to the mid area, which I think is kind of cool. But sooner or later, since I'm holding a casting call for artists right now, I might have to do an actual reference for Nistee.
We can't judge a book by its blurb. Give a rainbow some time.
So people will actually get a good idea on how she is drawn. But, I mean, I guess I didn't really mind, like, how she was drawn here.
I've been through a lot of tough situations.
And then I like this
All
moment
six of
where
us have.
Fluttershy is
But
just
we
having a
must
heart-to-heart
do everything
conversation
that is
with
thrown at us.
Nistee.
I just don't want her to be unprepared. I don't want her to get hurt. I don't want her to...
She won't.
She was going to say, I don't want her to die. But of course it was unfinished because, you know, reasons. And then here is the fourth song from the Color Goddess. This is one of my favorites that I worked on, and the melody actually came from something I composed about, I don't know, 6 or 5 years before, back in 2013, so I decided to recycle it. I actually remembered how the guitar part went as well. And I thought we'd get a Nistee song as well. But of course, Nistee's singing voice sounds a lot like my own. I tried to make it sound, you know, not me. Because Nistee kind of sounds like my voice, but not quite. It was like a more of a rasp. It's not what I wanted. Like, I'm not putting all of my voice in there. And that's also where Tenebree's voice evolved from. Because, fun fact about Tenebree. Tenebree was originally a evil version of Rainbow Dash, so I wanted her to sound like a sly version of Rainbow Dash, but then it turned into something completely different. And then, of course, we have a Rainbow Dash verse here, so, like, why not make this a duet? Nistee and Rainbow have their own doubts here. They have their own worries. Like, Nistee is worried that she won't be able to be reunited with her sisters because Rainbow won't be able to save everyone with how badly she's kind of doing with training so far. Whilst Rainbow Dash, on the other hand, she's worried that she'll never be a Wonderbolt because she has a much more serious responsibility in protecting Equestria and holding these goddess powers in her. And I really love this bit with the harmonies. And then key change. This is the bit that was shown in the trailer. And of course you can see my epic layering skills in Coral. This is why I draw the song animatics in the Color Goddess, so I can practice with the layering effects. I mean, I think I only did that like once in the Heart Shell with Lost, when I used to edit the episodes entirely in Coral, but because it kept crashing on me, and in episode 3 especially, there were some black frames that I couldn't get rid of. I wasn't quite sure what to do there, so then I just edited the episodes in Movie Maker instead. But with the Color Goddess, on the other hand, I wanted to test out more of the layering effects, so I decided to have the animatics edited in Coral, with all the other scenes edited in Movie Maker. And now we have our other new artist, Derpy Scientist, and this was the only episode that he kind of drew for, and this was actually in his style. Of course, it was kind of based off the show as well.
It's worth 1,000,000 bits. The brooch is worth 1,000,000 bits.
Oh, I love that
What
conversation between the
What?
CMC.
No brooch here. Nope, definitely not worth
And
it's
Applejack.
worth 1,000,000
Of course you'd be suspicious of this.
You know I heard your entire conversation, right?
What? Sis, you eavesdropped?
You were right behind me.
But you shouldn't
Well,
eavesdrop.
Apple Bloom.
To be
May I
fair,
see it?
even when Applejack was in front of
We were
them,
going to find who it belonged
she was
to,
still
I
eavesdropping.
promise. That's
She
right.
wasn't taking part in the conversation.
Somebody must have dropped it. Yeah, it probably cost 1,000,000. We know.
And it probably cost 1,000,000
This
bits.
is an obvious
That's like a running gag in this episode.
Sure, it attached itself.
What does that mean?
Well,
Look over there.
Okay, so then we have Angel hanging out with this little brown bunny.
It's so
And
cute.
I
wonder if
imagine
that's Angel's
Sweetie
girlfriend.
Belle just being the
Angel
romantic type.
doesn't have a
And just like
girlfriend.
loving
What else
all
could it
things
be?
romantic
Probably
when
just a bunny
she's a
friend.
preteen like
Like us.
this.
We're best friends.
And then Scootaloo, being more of the tomboy, thinks that all this romantic stuff is very gross. And then
They're kissing.
I just love this entire bit. It's just
gross. It's beautiful. Angel and the bunny sitting in a tree. You've gotta be kidding me.
and then we have Fluttershy and
Is he
Nistee
doing that?
returning.
yes, I guess.
And this is
Just
Beanie
leave
Scribbles a
Nistee
lot's
to me,
art
Broach.
over
I
here.
know she can do it.
Me
I really
too.
love the big ears
Isn't
that
Applejack with
was
the CMC?
drawn here.
What are they doing at your
And then
house?
the music playing in the background right now is like another version of Sweet Fluttershy,
hi,
except
Sugar
it's
Cube.
a minor
going on?
version. It's a
Who's
sad
that
version,
little
and it's
look
actually
cute
called,
little brown
I
bunny?
think it's
It looks like they were
Fluttershy's
kissing.
Sorrows, I think it's called,
How romantic.
because it's connecting to the other
Seriously,
subplot in
they're just
TCG where Fluttershy is worried about Angel getting a bunny girlfriend
Fluttershy?
and
You okay?
becoming a father.
Angel has.
Fluttershy, where are you going?
I never wanted this to happen.
And it actually explains in episode 4 why she is so worried about Angel becoming a father.
Fluttershy. Hey, Applejack.
And then
where did
with
you get
that out of the
brooch?
way, then we have
My
the
sister
brooch.
found it. Is it yours?
the brooch that becomes a very, very important part of the drama.
I've never seen anything like it before. That is odd. Do you also know what's gone into Fluttershy? No, I don't. I'm afraid. I wish I could help her like she helped me. What am I going to do? About Rainbow, right? Uh-huh.
And again, I don't have that much to say here. Oh well, I'll just wait for another bit until I can actually
It shouldn't be too bad from there.
talk about it.
That's how every pony gets good at something. When I was younger,
Okay, so here's a bit that I can talk about. Applejack talks about pretty much her plot in the Heart Shell when she was comforting Rainbow Dash. When she was sad about Tank hibernating, but then of course she didn't want to say that her parents had died. Rainbow does find out later on when she's figuring out what Applejack's demon fall had gone through. And look, you get to see my gorgeous art from February of 2017. It's cringy. It is so cringy. It just proves how much better I have gotten at drawing ponies since then, and I think Heartsy commented on that as well. And this is from April of 2017. Not as cringy, but still a little bit cringy.
All thanks to understanding friends like them. What has that got to do with me? Don't let Rainbow's lack of practice bring you down. She's still learning.
Yeah, and I thought it was very fitting to kind of have Honest Applejack, the theme, playing on in the background, because it has the same melody of What is the Truth. And that is definitely connecting to what happened with Applejack in the Heart Shell, because she had a bit more of a subplot as well. And then we have Cuticle as a silhouette in the brooch. And then so the writing on the brooch is an ancient goddess language that Nistee can read. So Chiora is like color and Rani is rain. And so this new music playing is just called I'm an Apprentice, and that plays a couple more times in episode 4 later on.
Hey, what happened to the brooch?
It turns out Nistee was the owner without even realizing it.
And then I guess you'll find out the importance of the brooch later on. Well, I already said apprentice, so
That would be funny.
I guess in episode 4. What am I saying? You'll find out, yada yada yada. If you've watched episode 4, which you hopefully have, Nistee becomes an apprentice of Hudaka. And how that's possible, I guess I'll explain that later on in the drama. And now we cut back to Lumina and Satara, who have been trapped for roughly 1,500 years. Yes, I mentioned earlier that it used to be 10,000 years, but then I changed it because it would make more sense. And so they've pretty much been locked in there for that amount of time, 1,500 years, and they've been trying to help Equestria with their land and light and darkness, etc. But Lumina, being the innocent angelic one, kind of reaches her limit here. She wants to socialize, she wants to meet the other ponies, she wants to help them. But Satara is not having any of it because she doesn't want to back down on what their sister Hudaka had told them.
Don't talk about our sister like that.
And I think in the bloopers, Darling Moon, who plays Satara, was saying Satara, Angsty Flower Child is extra. No, actually that was Heartsy Artsy in her reaction that said that Satara was extra angsty today. It was Darling Moon who said in her bloopers that she was sounding so mean. I loved Darling Moon's bloopers in this. They were just kind of ramblings on, and then she started talking about having a spin-off show with Satara and her pet Pikachu because her phone went off, which had the Pikachu sound effect. Dearie me. Okay, so then what is happening here is that Satara is at her limit, helping Equestria with her powers. And then, so, Darling Moon's voice is here, but then the whispers, if you could actually hear the whispers in her voice in the episode, that's actually me. I had to have a couple of takes trying to kind of time my whispering lines right. I just wanted to make it sound a bit more ghostly. Because, yeah. And I think back when I showed Peacock the script for this episode, she was tearing up because it was feels. It was absolute feels material. I mean, you can't have a Muse script production without feels, right? It's like you can't have a cake without flour or whatever. And so then those are the 3 components that Satara sacrifices, and they'll become very important later on. And so then Satara becomes grey and lifeless. And that's Kenzie's only line in episode 3. And this is more layering effects in Coral Video Studio. And these orbs play a very important part in the very next episode. We're focusing on this pink one, because then it becomes a brooch on Fluttershy's chest in her bedroom. What a fantastic way to end the episode, with a cliffhanger. You can never stop the cliffhangers. So, that was episode 3. This episode was really fun to work on. I guess it was a bit more laid back than, what it's going to be later on in the drama because, oh boy, like the heart shell, the color goddess is going to get more dramatic. It's going to get more I already said dramatic. It's going to get more emotional, and then it's going to get more dark as well. You just wait until the future episodes. And as you can see, I've done most of the art again, but I did gain a couple of new artists for that episode, so everything is fine. And then a couple of artists had dropped out for that episode, so I had to fill in. That's what I wanted to avoid, really. Because, I mean, not that I don't mind, like, filling in art, but, okay, another reason why I wanted to have a casting call for artists is because, if you've noticed on my Twitter and my DeviantArt, I'm starting a TCG-themed comic. So, and that is actually, well, I mean, it is based around TCG, but it's also focused in THS, so pretty much that particular universe. And, yeah, it's gonna be a multi-paged comic thing, like Heptology of Error. Yeah, that was a comic that I did back in 2017 through to 2018, and that took a more of a comedy approach, really. I mean, I don't really usually write for comedy, but that one was a comedy. But, unlike Heptology of Error, which was pretty rushed, this, comic is actually going to have some tender loving care to it. It's going to look amazing, it's going to have a lot of detail to it, and there'll be about 1 page a week starting next Friday on the 10th of May 2019. And I do plan to make a dub of it after I do finish the comic, which would be sometime very late in 2019. So I just thought I'd give that a try, you know, doing a TCG themed comic, because I hadn't actually done that before. I have done comics based around the THS TCG universe, but they were just single paged ones. Anyway, so with that announcement out of the way, thank you so much for watching this commentary. There wasn't really too much to say, and I feel ashamed of myself for doing that, but oh well, it doesn't matter. Stay tuned for next Saturday, where I will be doing a commentary on the Christmas special for the Color Goddess, and hopefully I shall have more things to say then. So, bye! This is Musescript signing out.
The school of friendship is for all of us, a place where we belong, where we all learn